Welcome to Finish Strong, the show that equips men to walk boldly in their faith and finish the race of life with no regrets. The Word of God challenges each of us to run with endurance. In a world full of distractions and challenges, we're here to help you to stay grounded in God's Word, lead with integrity, and live with meaning and purpose. Come along as your host Jeff Drawn helps to equip you by having real conversations with successful men who will tell their stories of perseverance. Clothed in biblical truth, these powerful stories will give you practical wisdom to show that it's not about how you start, it's how you finish.
Today, I'm honored to have Coach Thomas Bachman with us today. And so Thomas Bachman, he's the head football coach and athletic director at Alexandria Senior High School here in Alexandria. He's led that program for the past 11 seasons. Coach Bachman is just a proven leader. He has a strong track record, great success. He's actually guided Ash to state championship appearances in 2020 and 2024. And so he has truly established this program here in our city as one of the premier contenders in Louisiana high school football. But prior to coming to Ash, Coach Bachman served 4 years as head coach and athletic director at Bastrop High School. He also spent 2 years as offensive coordinator at Evangel Christian Academy. During his time at Evangel, the team reached the state championship game in 2008, and they captured the state title in 2009. Coach Bachman is a graduate of Evangel Christian Academy and Louisiana College, and Coach Bachman has deep roots here in Louisiana football and just has a passion for leading student athletes. And so his coaching philosophy, as you'll hear, is to emphasize discipline, accountability, and teamwork. His ultimate goal is to prepare his players for success both on and off the field. But off the field, he's also a busy guy. Coach Bachman is a devoted family man. He and his wife, Kim, are the proud parents of 2 children, Ella Claire and April. So being a head football coach, an athletic director, a husband, a father, you're probably thinking that Coach Bachman just cruised through life. Well, just like everyone, he's had his bumps along the way. But it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And Coach Bachman definitely has a plan for finishing strong. Coach Bachman, welcome to the podcast.
Appreciate you having me on.
Great to see you. So,
it's good to be here.
As I told you beforehand when we started this podcast, you're one of the guys on my list that I've been wanting to interview, and so I'm glad our timing worked out with this and kind of give you a little off season to do this for us today. But thank you for being here with us today.
I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here. Looking forward to it. Certainly admire you. I was thinking about, what are the things that you want to communicate. And, as we get into this thing, I mean, from afar, watched you for several years now, know of you more than knew you, but obviously over the past maybe 12 months, got to know each other a little bit more, and certainly admire and respect and appreciate the example that you set. Want you to know that it's challenging and it's inspiring. So thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for those kind words. And so just tell us about your life growing up. So where'd you grow up, and kind of tell us about the early years of Coach Bachman, Thomas Bachman. What'd your life
I guess
look
there's
like?
It's a lot to it when you think where do you begin? I was born in Shreveport. I'm the son of a coach. Very fortunate. As I think back over my life, my parents were incredible. There's 4 of us. I have an older brother, a younger brother, and then a baby sister. But I was born in Shreveport.
Middle child then, right? So
yeah, middle boy. My brother and I were about 18 months apart, and then my younger brother came along maybe 3.5, 4 years after that. I was a senior. He was a freshman. And then my little sister about 18 months after that. So close enough in age where, we had really good relationships, really strong. But, yeah, born in Shreveport. The son of a coach. Athletics has played a huge part in my life growing up around the field house. I don't necessarily remember those early years. Probably my earliest memories would start. My mom is from Livingston Parish, that area, and kind of remember those days a little bit. But we moved to Katy, Texas when I was in the 3rd grade. And so from 3rd grade through junior high, those years played a lot of those are really my deepest, earliest memories of traveling to ball games. My dad was a junior high coordinator for Katy, and I can just remember getting in the vehicle when he had scouting assignments. He'd always have to go get ready for the next opponent. He'd have to go in on Saturday morning and present to the high school coaches, the future opponents. And I just remember getting in the car with him and going to these games. And the older I got, maybe upper elementary, early junior high, he'd start giving me assignments, go down in pregame, start listening to their snap count, just things that he had to report back on Saturday. And it's just a lot of fun. Texas high school football I think we've got great, incredible football here in Louisiana. It's second to none.
Yeah.
It's funded a little bit different in Texas.
Yes.
So I just remember the huge press boxes, and there was always something to eat. And it was just a lot of fun.
Was there any kind of pressure there from your dad to play football, or how did that go?
No, not at all. We all played, but it was never in fact, he didn't let us play some of the youth football. We didn't start playing. My older brother wasn't allowed to play till we started playing school ball in junior high. There were some things. He's a coach. He didn't like necessarily some of the foundational things that he thought he saw from athletes that had played youth ball and stuff like that. So there was never any pressure. Sport is what we do. Ball is so much a part of our life, but as far as, hey, you're going to do this, I think he wouldn't have cared one way or the other. As we go through this thing, I'm probably going to reference my dad a lot. My mom, dad, just really incredible people. I'm very fortunate. When I think, I don't ever recall any strain. I'm sure that there were times where, I can't believe they're doing this, or you're punished or whatever, but a time where you resent your parents or you're upset. I just don't ever recall that ever being a feeling that I had regarding mom and dad. I just appreciated the way they went about things, the way that they raised us, the way that they tried to provide for us.
Yes.
You don't know what you don't have. You don't know what you don't know that you don't have.
Yes.
It's just it's really hard to try and sum up here in a couple of minutes, just everything. Evangel played a huge part of my life. That high school experience. We moved back to Louisiana going into my 8th grade year. Dad got on staff at Evangel, and those are really the years that's what I feel like is the foundation of my life. What I learned at Evangel, the coaches that poured into me, the teachers, just so much of who I am today, or who I want to be. Maybe would be a better way of saying it. Is I just draw back from those coaches that were in my lives, those teachers, on the professional level, but the spiritual foundation that was poured in my life from those years at Evangel. Man, I just admire it so much. And the older you get, the more you appreciate where when you're a little bit young and immature and you think you got it all. Man, the older I get, the more I admire those people, those men, for the example that they set for us.
Yes, and was that during the championship run? I know there was a championship run.
It was some pretty good years. Very, very fortunate, there. It was the late 90s, early 2000s. It was probably some of the height of the success of Evangel, and played with some incredible people. Had some incredible experiences, just a lot of success. It's hard to describe. I heard Lou Holtz say about Notre Dame, see if I can phrase this. He said, if you were a part of it, it needs no explanation. If you weren't a part of it, no explanation will suffice. And that's kind of the way I feel about that. Just to be a part of it was something that was just very incredible. And then you look back, just the amount of success and the quality of family and people that were a part of Evangel at that time. And still, I've just been gone from it for a long time.
But you were exceptional on the football field as well, right? You went on to play college ball after you
graduated. I had some success.
Yes.
Yes, I was very fortunate that I played at Evangel for the coaches, and had an opportunity, I guess, to showcase some of it. I was fortunate. Out of high school, I signed with Texas Tech, spent a couple of years at Texas Tech, 2.5. What I was exposed to at Texas Tech, I look back and, I'm not going to start name dropping, but Coach Leach and his tree, obviously Coach Saban in college football probably has the most impressive tree of anybody in maybe all of football, but certainly modern football. But Coach Leach on the offensive side of the ball, his assistants, the people that played for him, just the teammates that were in that locker room during that 2.5 year period when I was there. A lot of guys that are having a lot of success in college football today. It's pretty special,
Yes.
I mean, I don't necessarily want to start dropping all these guys' names, but you just
stay in touch with some of those guys though that you're with.
not a whole
then?
lot. I mean, you see some of them on the recruiting trail or whenever. But not necessarily where it's like a weekly or monthly conversation. I mean, you're just in passing everybody.
But it impacted you that coaching tree and obviously
Absolutely.
What information you got there and all that.
I'll still use it today. I mean, you try and draw on everything that you've been exposed to and piece it all together. And
so what brought you back to Bastrop? We're back to Bastrop, that area, right?
Finally graduated. I left Texas Tech after 2.5 years. I was there and then kind of drifted a little bit. If I'm, just kind of lost. If I think back to that time, just what do I want to do? What am I? I had about 100 hours. Hadn't graduated school, and then Coach Dunn was down here at LC, and come on, boy, come play for me. Of course, Coach Dunn's played. Still to this day, I talk to him probably weekly. So I went and spent 1 year with him and got my degree and didn't know what I was going to do. It was my dad was the head coach at Evangel during this time. This would have been 2007, 2008. And I remember him saying, will you come help me this spring? And the rest is history. I never got out of coaching, from that point. So I worked for him in 2008, 2009 at Evangel. And then I moved over to Bastrop in 2010, spent a year as offensive coordinator for Brad Bradshaw, and then I got the head coaching job whenever he retired. Spent 4 years in Bastrop. Learned a lot. I was learning, didn't really know what I was doing. I was taking on.
Learning as you go.
You better believe it. It was a sharp learning curve where expectations were high. There wasn't a whole lot of room for the success that Bastrop had in the mid-2000s, the state championships. The expectation was high, and trying to navigate that, it was certainly I look back, and while it was hard going through, we didn't have the success that obviously we had wanted or that they were used to, and it's been great for me. Because I had to learn in such a hurry. I had to take on. You had to, when things are not going well, everybody's got an opinion. Yeah. So the ability to learn to show up and battle for kids' hearts and minds, that you got to find another way to win them, that they know that you care about them as you're very hard on them. That was just a very I learned a lot in a hurry. I can remember we scrimmaged Ash for a couple of years. I can walk over to that track, the old track where it was, walking across the track, kind of looking around saying, man, I wonder what's up with this place. I kind of wonder, it seems like this could be something. I didn't know that I was eventually going to be there, but I just remember that moment there. So got here in 2015.
Yes. And how did that come about?
11 years have gone fast. Yeah. I'm trying to remember a couple phone calls. Next thing I know, I'm in Mr. Urbina's office, and there's some back and forth. It just happened fast, wow. and so that was the spring of 2015, and I guess got to work there that spring, and 11 years have gone fast. Yeah. 11 years have gone fast.
Well, we've been very fortunate to have you here in Central Louisiana. And as a former Ash football player myself, I weighed the same amount that I weigh now. Yeah. I was an outside linebacker for Butch Stoker back in the day in 1986.
Coach Boniel?
Coach Boniel. He was my linebacker coach. And
so when I first came around, Coach Boniel would come sit in the office with us, just want to, what's going on the board, talk ball. And I knew obviously of Coach, but I didn't know him. But the passion, he loved it. And it just, those were fun. Those were those early years getting to know him. He would just, come in and sit down in a meeting and he was obviously the success he had in football and the baseball field's pretty incredible. So
absolutely. Well, I'll just brag on you. You don't need bragging on, but you've brought Ash football to just new heights. Ash football has been in existence a long time. When I played, we had some pretty good days under Scott Stoker as our quarterback. He was in my class, but just the success you've brought Ash to is just unprecedented. And so just bringing it to new heights. So you're setting a new standard. It sounds like the accountability and the program you're building and all that. So just speak to kind of that process over these last 11 years. I mean, I know it didn't start that way from day one, but what would you say some things that have kind of attributed to that success over the last 11 years? I know it didn't happen overnight. Everybody's like, oh, it's an overnight success, and no such thing as an overnight success.
That's right. It's been a lot that has gone into it. I mean, it consumes you. You're either occupied or preoccupied with it. Pretty much every waking moment of the year. You surround yourself with good people, and while I get one that gets to sit here and I get to have the title of head coach, I've been very fortunate that there's a group of guys that we've been together a long time. There's continuity, there's a camaraderie, there's a belief in each other that allows you to make it through the hard times or the difficult decisions or just all those things. And so it starts with that, surrounding yourself with really good people, and that for me that starts with Sedarin Freeman. I don't know how well you know Coach Free, but he is as good as gold. I admire him. He is such an example of a man, a godly father, a godly coach, and it's not like you get in deep conversation all the time about different things. I just admire. I've watched it. What he says is
lived it out, right?
Yeah, I mean, his words have spoke so loudly because of the way that he lives. Jackie Skipper's another one. He's been with us from here at Ash from the get go. We worked together all in Bastrop. So that was important. The other coaches that we have, Coach Merce is an Ash grad. I think we're going on year 10, Coach OJ year 10, Coach Russo. So we've had a lot of continuity.
Yeah.
Just roll up your sleeves and go to work, and I want to be careful because I don't ever want to be disrespectful Ash has got a deep tradition, what Coach Stoker did. I've known of Ash from when I was a player, but, that jump into 5A, I can remember when I first came along, there just wasn't a belief that we could compete or that we should compete.
Exactly.
And it felt like, and I still feel like they're not with us at Ash, but sometimes when it's hard to compete, it's easy to make an excuse that we shouldn't be competing, so therefore people don't try to compete. Mm-hmm. And, from day one, that first class with Matthew Beck, they bought in and they went to work, and it's fun when it starts to turn and people start to believe and see and the building phase of it, man, when everything's new and exciting, it's a lot of fun. I thought there were some early years. I thought 2019 was really going to be the year where we broke through and we went down to Mandeville and got upset in the second round. And, if you were to ask me what's the best roster we've ever had for any one given team, I'd probably tell you 2019. And, that was very, very challenging not to, man, we're never going to have a roster like this again.
I was there. That was Jacobian, right?
Bud's about to get drafted. Jacobians, about to.
Yes.
I really think they're going to play in the league. And, that class after them went on to play for the state championship.
Yes.
That was a really strong junior group with Judd.
COVID, right? 2020, yes.
Yes, what a year that was.
And Northwestern, that championship outside of Northwestern, right? So.
That was the one half second away from potentially, winning it all. But, it's hard to put it all. You just put your head down and go to work, and that's there's been some good years. Been some tough years, but I do think there's been a consistency in the coaching staff and then a consistency in our day in and day out approach that, the most important day we're going to live is today. Let's make sure we make today count. And that's kind of what we've, when talking about next week or next game or whatever, we're fixing to make today count. We'll put the blinders on and go to work. And I think that's so much of life. That's why, I enjoy the being consumed with it, because one, it helps pass the time. You don't have to worry about how time's going to pass. But
well, interesting that you mentioned Coach Saban, and it wasn't in one of my questions to you, but you think about him as everywhere he went, he built up the expectations, right?
That's right.
So at LSU, he brought LSU to a new standard. Even though Alabama had a long history, he also brought them
That's
to
right.
expect
No,
national championships.
that's right.
So when you came to Ash, the expectation wasn't for championships. But now there's somewhat of an expectation that Ash is going to be in there. So it's in a way you've kind of put pressure on yourself. So how is that from a building phase to a sustaining phase? So what's the difference there in approach from a coaching standpoint if you're in a building of a program versus sustaining a program? Is there a difference?
Right. Well, I mean, you've got to constantly improve. You know, you don't ever want to leave the building. You know, there's a difference between having a team and having a program, and trying to get everybody to understand. Everybody has a team every single year, right? Having a program is the things that support the team.
Yeah.
You know, it's what feeds the team, and when I say feed, what feeds into it. You know, from lower levels. You know, the structure that you've created to develop kids, you know, and we've made a lot of strides in that area. I'm very, very fortunate that from day one, you know, I've worked for a couple of different principals, but from day one with Mr. Urbina, then it was Mr. Garrett, then it was Miss Goodman to Mr. Arrington, now back with Miss Goodman for a while, is that they've given us the structure through, you know, you're fighting for the structure that you need so that we can develop kids and just give ourselves an opportunity to compete, you know. Try to tell the kids you can do all this hard work. You know, it doesn't guarantee us anything but an opportunity. If you don't do the work, we don't try to make the most of every day. I can guarantee you we're probably not going to have much of an opportunity to accomplish some of the big things. So fortunate that we have the structure in place. I mean, there's a lot of support for the program. I love being here. I genuinely do. I have no idea what tomorrow holds. I get asked that question a whole bunch. You know, certainly had opportunities, all of us, to be other places, but you know, I love this community. I love our school. I love what we have going on. I'm proud of what we have going on, and I think that there's more out there to accomplish. So we're just going to try to stay hard at work.
Absolutely. Well, and shifting gears here just a little bit to, you know, before I really knew you personally, you know, again, I knew of you, but I knew coaches and people in your program, and everybody just talked about how you invest in and your coaches invest in these kids, not just as athletes, but as people. And that isn't just some trite statement of, okay, we're working on the kids on and off the field. Y'all truly are working on the kids on and off the field. And I know one of your goals is for those to be successful young men. Very few of them will end up playing college.
That's right.
And even fewer of those kids will end up going to the pros.
That's right.
But you're developing that kid. So talk a little bit about just maybe some of the intentionality y'all go with to build those kids' character, and how does that play into the program?
Well, I keep referencing the staff. I think that's so important, the way that we interact. You know, I think that bleeds into a locker room. I've heard somebody give it, you know, if coaches love coaches, coaches love players, players will learn to love each other and love their coaches. So I think it starts, you know, there's certainly moments of tension in the staff where we agree to disagree behind closed doors, and it gets pretty intense, but I don't think it's ever been where people are trying to undermine or sow dissension, and so it starts there, and then you're just involved in the everyday life, you know, and there's so much that takes place on a given day, a given week, a given school year with these kids and the things that they're battling, you know, the hardships at home, the hardships in life, the relationship hardships. And, you know, when you have formed a relationship, you know, they begin to seek out or know that you're available, or not every kid comes to necessarily, you know, me or one particular coach, but when you have a group of quality guys, they begin to seek those people out. And when there's trust established, you have an opportunity to speak into their lives and help guide them and say, hey, I've been where you are. You think that's a mistake. Let me tell you about some of the mistakes I've made, or where I've missed the mark, or where I've come up, like, you know, as the Bible says, though a righteous man falls 7 times, you know, he gets up. You know, and I think that's so important, right? You're going to make mistakes. You're going to miss the mark. Get up, own it, right? Well, don't explain it away. Don't, you know, I mean, there's remorse and there's, but you get up and you move forward, and it's just the day in and day out relationships that are forged because we spend a bunch of time. I mean, our kids sacrifice a lot from an athletic standpoint. Our kids' football, like we're together a lot. And
wow. Well, I can tell there's intentionality there. I mean, it's evident all throughout it, and I just know that you know that you're kind of heading up the helm of a big influence on these kids' lives, because a lot of kids grow up without dads around in the house, and I know that's probably no exception with your program. And I just remember just a few months ago sitting in your office, and while we're sitting there talking, you get a text about one of your former players, something happened to one of your former players, and I didn't know what the situation was, but I looked at your face of just resolve, of just, hey, we're going to be there for this kid. And so we're not abandoning this kid. We're there for them. I mean, they're part of your family, and that's not some just trite saying. It's truly who you are.
I hope so, and it's certainly what we want. I want to win. I make no apologies for wanting to win. I think that's important to teach kids. They're that you strive, and that there's winning and losing, and I certainly want to. People that are managing whatever it is, or you have to have an attorney, or there's all kinds of things. You want people to strive, and I think being competitive and wanting to win. But the relationship, all the winning. I mean, it's the text messages. It's when they come back around. I want to watch them from a distance. We do. I think we do. I'm not a social media guy, so I don't necessarily interact with them on social media. There's so much of that. I see where it's so good, but I also see just the downfall of social media. But I do want the kids to know that, hey, watching you from afar, I think that a lot of them, there's a lot of people in the athletic space. These kids are so visible. When they go on and have success, sometimes people reach out to them, and I don't know how genuine it is. It's about them attaching themselves to the success that person. I can only, I remember when Bud picked that ball off and, ran it back in the national semifinal game. I can wonder what it's like when he made it to his phone after the game, the amount of people that, and most are well-intentioned.
Yes.
Not everybody makes it about Bud. It's about, all that stuff. And it's just how overwhelming that can be for them, where it's another person that they have to get back to. Hey, man, we are here. You know that if you need something, you pick up the phone and you call. And it's the relationship. All the wins, that's the thing that, my dad set an example for. Like the winning and losing was important, but man, just the relationship with the players, how he genuinely cared for them. I mean, that was his strength, his ability to connect. I think he was a strong schematic coach. I think all that stuff's important, but when you can get a kid to play for you, I heard Coach A, one of my mentors, say, kids will play hard for you because they're afraid of you. They will play so much harder for you because they love you. And Coach A was one that we probably feared and loved. He was a little bit of both of it. So
no doubt about that. No doubt.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's and you ask guys all the time, like, who are some of the most influential men in your life outside maybe the relationship with their dad? It's a coach. I mean, and I go back and I look at my relationship with my coaches at Ash, and hey, I wasn't the best football player in the world. I was 150 pounds soaking wet, but it was my coaches that had the biggest impact on me. I think about those teachers, those coaches, those people in education, and so never underestimate the power of our words as leaders, as your leader leading these kids. So
it's had an impact on me. I feel like most of I used the guys that were in front of me. Denny Duran, played a very important role in my life, and there's so much that you just draw on. He told me something one time. I thought it was really good. I've told the kids this several times. I stand in front of you all the time, right? You get to see my strengths, right? Make sure you learn from them and you use them. But you also get to see my weaknesses. You get to see my flaws. You get to see my inconsistencies, or maybe where you think I'm, missing the mark. Make sure you learn from those things too. And when you get your opportunity, you remember the things that you didn't like about me, and you use that, and you be a better man. I thought it was really, I thought so.
Transparency.
I've tried to tell the kid, like, man, y'all get to see all my flaws too. So, learn from the things that certainly you think that we do well, or I do well as a coach, but
no doubt,
learn from it all, because you get to see it all on full display when you're the guy that's up in front of them a lot. They certainly, if you were to poll them all, they could point out some things right now. Man, I can't stand this about Coach. So part of it.
I know even years later, I'd see Coach Stoker in the grocery store. I mean, I'm out of college. I'm out of high school, and you still have that fear factor when you see your head coach. It's just that still you still have that nervousness about you. So let's talk about your faith. So grew up in a Christian home. It sounds like
Absolutely, church, raised in church. I have an uncle who's a Baptist preacher still to this day. My mom's oldest brother, Uncle Arvin. But really evangel, the foundation of faith, that was really evangelism is what Coach Denny would tell you. And through a high school football program, everything was about, Jesus was in front of us, just presented to us daily. And I'm really just amazed at it. I don't even know where to draw. I'm trying to think of, my earliest junior high, elementary. Church has always been a part of it, but a calling and a connection and that relationship were those years at Evangel. Coach Dunn, it seemed like half the team meetings turned into a ministry session or a prayer service or it's where it's hard to describe. I'm trying to think of ways to describe it. It's where you got to know who Jesus was, not the living, breathing, resurrected Jesus that changes everything. And just those years in Evangel. And there's certainly been a lot of bumps along the road. Times where you look back in your life and you're like, golly, I missed the mark. But the foundation of a relationship with Almighty God and Jesus. It goes back to those years. I'm talking about deep experiences that you can look back on where it set a trajectory for your life. Were those years in high school.
Wow! And I didn't prompt you on this, but Coach Dunn's going to be sitting in that same seat you're sitting in next week. So this is 2 back-to-back weeks of some great coaches.
Yeah, he's pretty phenomenal. Coach Dunn is as I've said, I think I said it about my dad earlier. My parents, the older you get, you more respect. The longer I coach, the more appreciation and respect I have for Coach Dunn, the consistency at which he's gone about things and the ability to pick up the phone and bounce things off of him. And the example that he's been, again, what people say is really only carries so much weight. I've just watched him live it for 20 whatever years, 30 years now that I've known Coach Dunn. I've got to watch it.
Yes. So faith integrated with being a coach at a public school. So how do you integrate your faith and kind of what you do as a coach? I know you probably have to dance some lines there just a little bit in the public setting, but how does that work for you?
I don't know. I don't know that we necessarily, dance. We have team devotionals. Coach Free runs it every Friday, or he'll bring in a speaker. And, back to my dad, I think of my dad, every time I get off the phone or the majority of the time that I get off the phone with my dad, I'll call him on the way home, whatever time it is. And when I get in the driveway, he knows, all right, Dad, I'm home or whatever we're in. The amount of times that he's told me, hey, boy, make sure you tell him about Jesus. It's all about Jesus. That's my dad. That's the legacy that, for me, that he has. And so, I don't know. I think who you are with them is very, very important. There's times where if you could sit them down and really quiz them on those things. You pray at the end of practice. I hope that we lead. I hope we lead a life that they look and say, there it is. That we model it. I think that's the biggest thing that we model it. It's just the way you go about life. I don't know that there's when you say being intentional, it's just a part of our daily lives. It's a part of our program. There's so many kids in our program that you admire. I tell them, I think back to high school. Kenneth Brantley. I hadn't talked to Kenneth since I graduated high school. I don't know what Kenneth Brantley is doing. Kenneth Brantley still has an impact on my life today because I admired him when we were 17, 18, 19 years old, the way he went about his life, the way he was a godly teenager, and it has an impact on me today. And I think about the kids in our locker room, And, tell them all the time, the way you're living your life right now is going to have an impact on your teammates for decades to come.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of people that want to, when you do what's right, there's more people that want to do what's right.
Absolutely.
They'll follow in. They just need that one guy to probably stand. And we got so many incredible kids from all types of churches or, across our city. So hopefully they're saying you don't have to go overseas. The mission field's that locker room,
Exactly.
and
Right
hopefully
there in front of you.
they're, the way some of them
Absolutely.
are living their lives, the way the example that we're setting as coaches is certainly making a difference.
Absolutely. Be great if you reached out to Kenneth Brantley and found him and said, "Hey,
I've told that story
to him today."
Yeah, he's incredible. I just admire him. I do. He was pretty awesome.
I had the opportunity to do that a few years ago. A guy that I was in right out of college. I was living in Baton Rouge, working in the LSU athletic department, and just a guy that went to church with us. He was like in his 30s, and he just grabbed me and said, "Hey, let's just start meeting for coffee, once a week." And so he just poured into me kind of for a season of my life, and time went on, got married, moved here, so that's been over 30 years ago now. And last year or two, I just said, I wonder where he is today. And so I was able to track him down, call him, and just say thank you. Thank you. And I said, just want to let him know, ministry-wise here, all that stuff. So it was a blessing to him, I know, to hear that. So,
absolutely.
To the guys listening here, if there's been a guy that's impacted your life, go tell him thank you. Go tell him thank you. You never know what that can do for that guy's life. You never know what he may be going through at that time.
Right.
So
everybody's walking through something, and it's
absolutely.
Regardless of what it looks like from the outside, we're all carrying, whatever it may be.
No doubt.
And it's very real to the people that are walking through it or carrying it. And
no doubt.
So
No doubt.
I probably need to do that, tracking him down. I'll have to get with my wife and say, look him up on Facebook or something.
I know you've mentioned a few guys, your dad and Dennis Dunn. So who are some other guys maybe currently that kind of pour into your life from a spiritual standpoint, from a building you up? Who are some of those key guys in your life?
Obviously my father is a huge example. These coaches, and it's not so much that they're, I respect Coach Free. I respect Coach Skip. I genuinely, just get to watch it every single day, the way they go about it. Coach Dunn, my coaches play such a huge role in that, but as far as, here that you're picking up the phone and you're calling, I don't know that I would. It would be my dad and Coach Dunn.
Right, yeah.
I have an uncle who I was very close with growing up, still close with today. If I need some advice or, I need to be told the truth or things that I don't want to hear or whatever, I know that he's not afraid to tell me exactly what I need to hear, not what I want to hear.
Yeah.
I think that, as you read, you can draw on other people's, I like to read. I like to draw on other people's experiences. I enjoy the way Pastor Todd preaches. I walk out of here on Sunday and, I think he's a teacher, and I walk away most Sundays with a little bit of more insight, the way that it's laid out, so. That would be. There's just so many different ways.
Yeah.
It's how you structure your life and what you're feeding into yourself so much.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that.
I'm
saying
that's
it's
great.
trying
Absolutely.
to
Bunch of them.
trying
guys.
to. I know you've had Judge David on here.
Yes.
His son plays for us, and so you got an opportunity from a distance. It's not that they're close. Yes, there's a personal relationship, right? But it's not like you're on the phone. But yeah, you just admire and you're challenged by.
Exactly.
The way that they go about their lives. And, I'd say that that's been a huge part of it. Who do you admire and why do you admire them? And sit there and think about that. What are those qualities that they exhibit on a daily basis? And then, where does that come from? And how do you emulate it? And why do you want to emulate it? Exactly. It's because their heart's in the right place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I tell the guys all the time, Christian men are born with a birthmark on them, and the birthmark is a target. There's a target on every man's back because there's nothing the enemy would like more to do than take men out of their family,
Absolutely.
Get them off track. So we talk a lot about boundaries. So part of finishing strong, the name of this podcast is, hey, what boundaries do we have in our life? So what would you say some boundaries you have in your life to kind of keep the enemy at bay and keep dialed in with the Lord? What are some kind of boundaries you set around your life?
Yeah, I just think what you expose yourself to. I mean, in today's world, social media and phones and I'm not a big social media person. I don't want that stuff. I don't want it to affect. It could be 100 positive. I tend to gravitate towards the negative. And then people that'll speak into you. I mean, obviously, my wife. There's a partner there, and you've got to have some transparency and some honesty and. That would be a huge part of it, of just open access. I mean, there's not a whole lot that you keep from each other, and it's the way you structure your life. The daily disciplines. Of how are you going to start your day, how are you going to end your day, and then how are you going to be honest with those that can really speak into your life? And the older I get, it's funny how that my dad is always my dad, and he's always an authority figure. But as you get older, that relationship begins to change. Where now he's a confidant. Now he's and even a little bit of role reversal where now he's seeking your opinion on things. So very fortunate in that regard. You mentioned having Coach Dunn. I know that Coach Dunn is one that I can pick up the phone and call at any point. But
great.
I just think it's structure, and I think that's something that you just can never become comfortable with, because the biggest thing that I think makes me uncomfortable is I know all my shortcomings and I know all my flaws, and the enemy, he can certainly remind you of all those things, and sometimes it makes you feel less than. It makes me feel less than. Like, man, I don't really want these people to know this about me, and I don't really want these people to know. You know what I'm saying? Just all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Though a righteous man falls 7 times, he continues to get up. I think about King David, and it's a story. So I heard I guess the only social media I probably do is YouTube. And I heard a pastor say one time that in all of King David's writings, all his great feats, it never comes from his writings. It's always his shortcomings. It's always his pouring his heart out about where maybe he missed the mark. All of the great things that he accomplished was somebody else telling David's story. It was never, and I don't, you might want to back that up, but it was just the way that and I was like, man, what an incredible way of, all the things with King David. He was called a man after God's own heart.
Yes.
And
absolutely,
it's
absolutely,
and I never knew that. When I said that,
that's a great.
Most of it is he's just, it's confession.
Yes.
Where his great feats that he accomplished was somebody else telling the story of his greatness.
A lot to be said there. Pride. If we're boasting about our own accomplishments versus somebody else boasting about our accomplishments, it's two different things. And, and what you just described is accountability. You have men around you. You've given men permission in your life to speak into your life and hold you accountable. And that's tough sometimes. I mean, just like on the football field, it's tough to say. But one thing's for sure, all of us will say we want to be accountable until we have to be accountable.
100%.
And that's when a lot of guys take off.
That's right.
But it's saying, hey, I want you to hold me accountable, and I'm going to follow under your leadership. And so that's
I want to hear the hard truths. I want to grow. I want to, I want to hear the hard truths.
Huge boundary around you for that. That's incredible. So again, you're a busy guy. I mean, you head football coach, athletic director. You're probably at every possible ASH event you can possibly go to. How do you balance it all? How do you balance family life? You're also a teacher, a coach, a friend. How do you balance it all? How do you balance all of it as a man that's out there that may be saying, man, I just don't have enough time in the day? How does one of the busiest guys I know balance it all?
It's time consuming, but it's coaching's hard to be a part of if it's not a family. I don't know. If your family's not heavily involved, you'll never make it, And so Friday, our lives revolve around Friday night. I grew up in it, and it was a busy life. Man, I had the greatest upbringing, family, and all that. So I don't know, reading, we talked a little bit prior to this. I think I said, Kim, how would you answer that? How do I balance? She'd probably say, you don't. It's very time consuming, but it's what we do. It's not what I do. It's what we do. I mean, she's in education. She's a teacher over at Caroline Dorman. And, it's just my job is also her. I mean, she's a part of it. She's getting to know the kids.
Yeah.
You know, Ella Claire's a senior this year, and so just a lot of our life has revolved around it. And you know,
But you don't have a lot of hobbies probably outside of
not
coaching.
a whole
and all
not
that,
not
right?
a whole lot. I feel I feel, especially in the season, like I feel guilty if I devote much energy outside of getting ready for the next one and preparing. And it's not that you don't have moments where you escape and refresh and things that you enjoy. But it's hard to say that, you know, this is getting the majority of your attention. And when you enjoy what you do, I mean, people that live to work and work to live.
Yes. Exactly.
This is what I enjoy
Exactly.
the busyness of all that it entails.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a family affair then, right? So,
They have to be in on it, and your lives have to revolve around it. Friday nights are a lot of fun.
yes. So what would you say that maybe the biggest challenge is when it comes to balancing family and work and all the different responsibilities? What do you think the biggest challenge is?
Being present, because you're not present a whole bunch. You're gone. I mean, it's early mornings and late nights, and so how do you make as many things as you can? You know, how do you support? I mean, I'm probably the world's worst at, you know, being the best of intentions when it comes to, you know, appreciating my wife or showing her other than a word of following through with action.
Yeah.
But I would like to say that I'm at those things. Thank God we're at the point where most of our life revolves around the school, and so that stuff's easy for me to attend because but it's a challenge. You know, it's hard to be present when you can only be one. You can't be two places, and
And I'm sure you're pulled from every direction too. I mean, we tell our guys all the time, a yes is 1,000 no's to something else. And so maybe being able to say no sometimes, to say,
absolutely,
I just can't do it all. So,
I have a great life. It's not too much. It's not, you know, I mean, it's what you choose to do, right?
Yes,
I mean, it's what you choose to do. And,
exactly.
you know, thank God, you know, they know all the kids and they can't wait to come to a lot of the games too. So, I mean, you know, that is where some family time is spent, is at the ballpark or at on the Friday night. And, and I've got a great job with a great support system too. I mean, there's so much more. It's not like I'm at everything. You know, Mr. Spikes is down at tennis today, and you know we've got girls softball tonight, playoff game. So looking forward to heading over there for that. So
nonstop.
It takes a lot of people, and thank God we have a lot of great people.
Yes, you're right. Okay, well now for a quick little lightning round.
Okay.
So, who are 3 people, they can be alive or dead,
Okay.
that you'd love to have dinner with tonight? If you chose 3 people.
Ooh, you know, let's see here. You know, it'd be hard not to say my dad and my 2 brothers, you know, because that's going to be easy flowing, relaxing conversation. You know, I mean, it would be hard to say that you wouldn't want to spend some time with Coach Saban and get to know him. The guy at Indiana right now would be very interesting to pick his brain. You know, I'm trying to think of who are some of the great military leaders, you know, you'd want to. But as far as an enjoyable evening where it's relaxed, I mean, it would be hard to beat.
Be yourself.
Yeah, you know, that would probably be the first thing I would sign up to. But there's so many people through history that, man, if you could really
pick their brain.
You know, I feel like everybody's answer would be Jesus, you know, and should be. But
and we will have that opportunity as believers one day to sit around the table, right?
It'd be hard to pass up some time with my dad and my brothers. Absolutely. You know, we're all coaches, so I'm pretty sure that would be.
All right, so who's Coach Bachman's favorite athlete of all time? If you had to choose a guy or girl, but who's your favorite athlete of all time?
You know, as it's hard, would be hard to say that I wasn't a huge Michael Jordan fan. You know, just the competitiveness, the drive, what he accomplished. You know, that was kind of when I was, you know, getting into it. I enjoyed watching him. I admire Tom Brady, the teammate that he was. You know, I think that's probably, now that I'm a little bit older, I appreciate what he did and the success that he had, and then his story. You know, it's not like he just, you know, had success from day one, what he battled at Michigan, and, you know, just his story for the success that he's had. My first thought would be, it'd be hard not to say Michael Jordan.
Yes, absolutely. I'm right there with you. That's our generation. We're close enough in the generation think that he's still the greatest.
He is the greatest.
No matter what the debate is, we'll lay it
There
down
is
right
no
there.
debate.
Okay, so Coach Bachman, coach, man, guy, this athletic guy. What's your biggest fear? Well, what's something that scares you out there?
Who? I don't know. Missing the mark. I feel like God's favor has been on my life a whole bunch through all of my shortcomings, all of my faults, all of my deliberate, choosing to be less than at times. I feel like, I've had a lot of favor on my life. I've had a lot of opportunity, and that golly, I don't want to waste all the gifts and talents and the calling of God when it's all said and done. There's been a calling that has been placed, and the people that you were supposed to impact and reach, and man, you don't want to miss that mark. I think that's very challenging.
Absolutely.
For me, that would be probably something that I'd point to is that what did I hear? There's only one thing we can take with us to heaven: other people.
Absolutely. Probably the best answer out of our 12 episodes. Just. Yeah, missing the mark, that's what this is all about. Like, you can start out great, but if you don't finish it, just like in a game, you can start out great, but if you don't finish it. And so we're all on a journey. We're all on a marathon.
That's right. A lot of life left. But you want to, when it's all said and done, I want to know that I made the people's lives that were in my orbit and my world, that you made an impact and you made their life better.
Exactly.
That's the biggest thing. We tell our kids all the time, when you enter a classroom, make sure the classroom's better because you're in it. When you go into wherever it is, make sure it's better because you're in it. Truly have a positive impact. Not that you're constantly looking to please people or say the things they want to hear. But you're saying the hard things. There's certainly a certain degree of uncomfortable and all that. But when you walk out of a situation, man, I hope that people say, man, we were better because we were exposed to whatever person, I want to make everything that I'm a part of hopefully better because I choose to be the best version of myself in those moments.
Absolutely. Being that thermostat in the room versus
that's right.
just checking the temperature.
That's right.
So last question. So there's guys listening to this, maybe they're not in a good spot in life. Maybe they start out strong and they've kind of slipped a little bit, or maybe they're in a strong position. So what would you say to the guy out there that's listening to say, how do you finish strong? Give us a locker room talk from a successful head coach on how do you finish strong in this life? How do you finish strong in your faith? Because again, ultimately, that's the most important thing. So how do we finish strong and not slide on the way that a lot of guys do, and they slide away from their faith?
What you expose yourself to, what you open yourself up to. I've heard it. Who's going to win, the spirit man or the flesh man? Or they're about to fight. Well, if I starve one and feed the other, it's what you feed, it's what you consume, and in today's world where there's so much information that you consume, it's just so much that you have to be very intentional with what you expose yourself to, what you allow into your life, and I think that's a huge part of it. So the daily disciplines that you set up for yourself are a huge part of it. I don't know if you're a Jordan Peterson fan. I enjoy Jordan Peterson where he talks about if you're going to improve, no matter how small, what are the things about yourself that you could change, that you would change, however small it is, and start there. There is no step too small, right? You have to start somewhere. I think that, we all, I'm guilty of it. I think this generation is really, guilty is the wrong word, but comparing yourself with everybody else, and I enjoy where he talks about don't compare yourself to others, compare yourself to who you were yesterday, and I think that's a huge part where they're just, it's hard for all of us with everything. You want to compare yourself. Well, I should be this, or I should be just, what could you change that you would change? What structure are you going to put in place, and don't compare yourself to everybody else. Are you a better person are you moving in the right direction from where you were yesterday? And, yeah.
It's incredible. Ready to run through a wall for you, Coach. I'm ready. So put me in, Coach.
Absolutely. I would. I will.
But Coach Thomas Bachman, I can tell why you've been so successful and where this is just the beginning. This is the beginning of where God's writing your story. And I just want to encourage you, what you're doing, the way you're pointing to these kids, the way you're pointing in your coaches, that you're building a program, but you're building more than that. You're building mighty warriors for the kingdom. So I just want to encourage you that you've got hopefully many, many more years ahead of you and many successes ahead of you. We hope it's right here in Alexandria, but if it's not, just know that you'll always have friends here in Central Louisiana. And I'm honored to call you friend, and thank you for being on today.
Right back at you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
Coach.
You got it. Thanks.
So in 2 Timothy 4:7, the Apostle Paul's in prison. He's facing his impending death, and he says these words as a final reflection on his life and ministry. I have fought the good fight. I've finished the race, and I've remained faithful. Needless to say, Paul's life didn't start out strong. Persecuting and killing Christians isn't exactly the blueprint that God has for a man's life. But God had other plans. He said, I want that man. So Paul switched jerseys and made it his life's mission to spread the gospel, no matter the circumstances. He made the decision that he would never give up, he would never back down, and he made the decision that he would finish strong. So as you just heard from Coach Bachman, life is not easy. But if you're a follower of Jesus, God has said the same thing about you, men. I want that man. So how will you respond to that? So the purpose of this podcast is not to give you another to-do list or heap guilt or shame on you from how you started or where you've been. The purpose of this podcast is to inspire you to action by hearing how godly men like Coach Bachman didn't just make lofty goals, they make commitments. Because I believe that commitments are greater than goals. Finish strong is a daily decision that requires a daily commitment. It's not how you start, it's how you finish.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you want to encourage other men, share this podcast and leave us a review. Finish strong.